floor to the speakers on behalf of political groups. From the United European Left, Mr. Paul GAVAN. Dear Paul, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to very much thank the last speaker for the absolutely powerful oration. On behalf of the United European Left, I want to commend the rapporteurs for these important reports. I want to speak first about the report on Alexy Navalny's death. I think the essence of the report is captured in paragraph 4, which states that the Assembly considers that the Russian state bears full responsibility for the killing of Alexy Navalny, who was subjected to torture, inhuman and degrading treatment in violation of the judgments and interim measures of the European Court of Human Rights. Many others have died at the hands of this regime and are mentioned in this report. Restrictive legislation ensures that independent voices, such as human rights defenders and independent media outlets, are now heavily restricted. Changes to the law on so-called foreign agents, or undesirable organisations as they're termed, has imposed restrictions and forced the closure of many non-governmental organisations. Large numbers of activists, human rights defenders and journalists are either in prison or have been forced into exile. But colleagues, this is not just in Russia, but also in member states of this institution. Persecution of the media has become commonplace and systematic. Extrajudicial harassment, arrests and the use of administrative fines and trumped-up criminal charges have been employed to repress journalists. And the example of Vladimir Kara-Murza, who has been detained since April 2022, is clear. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison last year. Amnesty International have described the charges against Kara-Murza as politically motivated because of his anti-war views. And this Assembly must be resolute in calling for his freedom and calling for an end to the persecution of anti-war protesters. But I have to say, I'm struck by the similarities in relation to Mr. Kara-Murza and Julian Assange. Both people imprisoned unjustly, both left in solitary confinement. The big difference, of course, being that Julian is imprisoned in a member state of this organisation. Because, colleagues, we can't be in favour of journalistic freedom only in some countries. Navalny is now dead, as are Jamal Khashoggi and Daphne Caruana Galizia. The process of keeping activists and journalists like Vladimir or Julian imprisoned is itself punishment. And coincidentally, Julian marked 5 years in jail on the same date of April 11th that Mr. Kara-Murza was put into prison 2 years ago. His health is deteriorating, and experts on both sides of the case agree that his conditions will get worse if he's sent to US prisons. Essentially, even without the death penalty, Julian will be buried alive. Julian's case makes it clear that it is a crime here in the West to report on war crimes. It's really important that diplomatic assurances are not misused by member states as a fig leaf to extradite prisoners to countries where there is a credible risk of torture or death. So in conclusion, I call for the freedom for Kara-Murza and freedom for Julian Assange.
Thank you, Paul.